Okay. I finished last week's Tour for the Nation video, and I have a question pop. I had a question pop up after hearing Scotty's question. Is it theft to not give tzedakah when you witness someone in need? So he gives clarification. If I see someone who doesn't seem to need something, should I still give? For example, if I see someone in front of me and they are short on cash and their person, and on their person, well, you're going to have to help me read this. I'm just,
if I remember right by it, it's basically talking about like someone in front of him that
they look like they
appears to be not in a needy situation.
Right. And then he gives one more a clarification. He said, or if I want to pay an individual behind me and I notice they have a nice car, should I allow that to change my mind? So I just simply said it's good questions. Okay, let's kind of break it down a little bit. First question, is it theft not to give tzedakah when you see someone in need?
No, it is not. It is not theft in the technical sense. Theft in the technical sense, according to the Rambam, is the removing of a movable object from someone, like your neighbor.
So it would already belong to them.
Yeah, it's a belonging. It's a movable object. It's a belonging. It's money. It's a shovel. It's a watch.
So tzedakah in his own hands, it's up to him what he does, correct?
If the person is in need and you have the resources to help that need.
I want to cover that here in a second. Go ahead.
You have the resource. If Hashem has given you the resources to help in that need, if you don't do it, you see that you need to be doing it. It may be something that maybe Hashem has pointed out to you, a person in need. He's given you an opportunity and you don't. You're going to fall more in line with what happened with Sodom in Ezekiel 16. Said they didn't extend their hand to the needy nor the poor and help them. They didn't lift. No, they didn't. No, that's not how it says. They didn't lift the needy. They didn't lift the needy. And so that's more or less, you violate being obligated or the duty of tzedakah. You violate the duty. We have a duty to be kind. We have a duty for tzedakah. And if you see a need and you have the resources, then we need to do that.
Okay. Have the resources. Clarify that a little bit. If you have the resources, you certainly don't want to give to put yourself in the same position. Now we're
right.
If you're limited on your tzedakah to begin with.
I mean, their needs, like sometimes, somebody's up there that's just short. Like, there's been story after story I've read here lately, like a single mom with a bunch of kids and they've got groceries and they're going to have to start putting some of the groceries back because they don't have enough money to pay for everything. Now, granted, some of the groceries might be some candy and some snacks for the kids. Should we judge that? In that situation, I don't think we should judge because we don't know the whole situation behind. That might be what they get for that month, and the mom's trying to give them, something they don't get all the time. So if you have the means, like if they come up $30 short and you've got $30, it's not going to, it's not going to take away from another obligation you're obligated to.
Right.
If you're already obligated to certain bills and you give and you put yourself behind in your bills, then you've hurt yourself. Actually, in a way, in a mentality way, when we look at theft, then you're taking away from someone who's due that money because you owe them for the electric bill, you owe them for the car payment, you owe them, for the water bill. And if you use that money to like help somebody else out, you're taking from them, thinking you're helping over here. And we shouldn't do that. The resources is what Hashem is going to give you, that you're not going to harm yourself or take away from a responsibility to fulfill this need of this person.
Right. Now, I know I've heard.
I hope I said that correctly.
I think you did. Now, I hope I don't forget these questions. I'm going to give you a scenario first before I ask this 10, 20 tithe tzedakah, if you remember that for me. Let's say there's a man in front of you, 3-piece suit, buying steaks. This is a scenario. Buying steaks, all the trimmings, and he's $10 short. Now, you mentioned something a while, and you're behind him. You got potted meat and bologna, and he's short. If I give my tzedakah that I set back to him, but then I walk out the door and there's somebody actually in need. But let's talk about the man with 3-piece suit first, short on his funds. Should I mean, I should weigh this out, correct? In my own heart, even though I'm a giver.
If you're going in and you're purchasing something,
I'm just trying to look at the point. I'm a giver. I'm compassionate, but is there a position where you have to hold your compassion sometimes? Just because you're compassionate
doesn't mean you owe everybody.
Right.
It doesn't mean you owe everybody that compassion as far as helping them out, because again, we don't know every situation. And also, as I've read in studying Musar, with the good traits that we develop in walking with the Creator, the Yetzer Hara can come in and convince you of something that is good. And in turn, he's trapping you.
Okay.
I hope I just didn't throw mud in the pie.
No, you didn't, because I want to discuss that part. Before I get into the 10, 20 tithe tzedakah. I'm just trying to keep that in the play here so we can remember it. Now I'm going to give it to you in Western theology, and you kindly straighten me out a little bit, okay? Give us correct guidance on it. We've got good and bad inside of us. Inside of me, I have good and bad.
Yeah, and it's our decision on which one we operate in.
Okay, but isn't there times when it's appropriate to have the bad side of you pull the reins in to the good side, or the good side would be so good you would give everything, and you would, you know what I'm talking about? Am I saying that correctly?
You've got to learn to have wisdom in balancing.
Wisdom. See, in the Western world, you got to destroy the.
No, we don't destroy. No, we don't destroy the evil inclination.
And sometimes that
we are to master it.
Okay.
That does not mean destroying it. And a great example that I learned, and I've discussed it with our rabbi, and he's on board. It's a perfect example. And since then, I've actually heard this by other Torah teachers, just like this or similar to it. It's like breaking a horse. You take a wild horse that comes in, that's wild, and you break them. You break them not to destroy them. That horse has a lot of power, a lot of strength, but you learn to teach that horse to channel it, and you work together.
Great answer. Great
and
answer.
That's what the Creator wants us. When he told Cain that you can conquer it, it doesn't mean to conquer like in battle. It means to master it, like the cowboy breaking the horse so that he can ride it, so he can use it to do work, to pull a wagon, to plow a field, or whatever he's using. That horse is wild. It's not tamed, and it has all this power, all this strength, and it's uncontrollable. And breaking it doesn't mean destroying it, but bringing all of that power, all of that strength into a controlled environment where the horse and the rider works together
Team.
to perform a duty.
Great answer. Great answer. Great answer. Okay. Well, let me read this number 2 that I broke down here. If I see someone who doesn't seem to need something, should I still give? And I think you covered that.
That's going to be a personal decision. One needs to learn to grow in wisdom. Again, you don't want to give to the point, and like you don't want to give everything in every situation, because just like what you said, what if you turn around, you walk out the door and you see an elderly couple or elderly person, or not even elderly, but just someone who is truly in need, and you don't have the resource because you misplaced that resource.
So I'm going to use some 3 words here again. Well, maybe 3 of them. Is it your obligation, your responsibility, your duty to handle the tzedakah that the Creator has given you wisely?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I was trying to tell you a while ago, there was an article that Rabbi Laser Brody wrote several years ago that I read it, and I wish I had printed it off. And he talks about that. See, the Jews are commanded. They're commanded that if the hand is extended, it's a commandment. It's a mitzvah for them not to turn away a hand that's extended. But Rabbi Brody in his wisdom showed that sometimes there's a misunderstanding in what is actually being said there. That there is some hands that are extended to you and you give in idolatry. And I wish I could pull all that up. It was eye-opening statement to know that, or to see and to learn that we could actually do wrong in certain types of giving.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have all, and I'll be honest with you, probably shouldn't have brought that up because I don't have all the answers. This falls into a person, and it needs, where you're talking about responsibility, duty, and what's the third word?
Responsibility, duty, and obligation.
An obligation. This is one of the areas a person needs to spend some study and some prayer.
Right.
And some counsel, wise counsel with find someone who's knowledgeable of the subject.
Yeah.
But preferably a Torah scholar, of whether he be a non-Jew or a Jew, but someone who's knowledgeable of the Torah law and the Torah halakha in giving.
Unfortunately, there has been times in the past that I've given to things thinking it was not going to idolatry, and ended up being a mission more than a benefit. Hungry and clothing the naked. Yeah, it was and
been there, done. I think we all have.
We have. And so a lot of our giving, we have to learn. I hate to say we have to learn by our mistakes, but
we have to learn by mistakes.
Yeah. It's the only way we get wisdom sometimes is to make a couple of mistakes. I hate to say it that way,
but that's what we do. We learn from mistakes. If we did everything right all the time, we wouldn't learn anything really. Right.
And that's the great thing with being able to teach it. We just didn't read it out of a book. Although you're going to read something out of a book here in a second. It fits what we've been through. That's why it connects with you and I. It fits what we've been through. And for those just now who may view this, however long it's up, and have questions about it, I would love to say that we're going to present this and it's going to be understood and everybody's going to grab a hold of it and it's going to change their life. Unfortunately, experience is the best teacher.
Yeah, it's just like there's an ancient, and I'm probably going to blumber this statement, but there is a statement, a line of thought within Orthodox Judaism that a person who has never sinned, which we know that's not true, possible, but for the sake that a person, let's say a Jewish person, is raised from a righteous home from birth, and they've taught this all their life, they've lived this all their life, cannot stand in the same place as a Baal Shuva. And a Baal Shuva means a Jew who has been off the path but has returned. It says the righteous person who's never made those mistakes can never stand in the same place, before the Creator as the Baal Shuva who's come through the mistakes and has come through forgiveness for those mistakes.
Yeah.
And now has put those mistakes behind him. And so there is merit. Not saying go out and make mistakes, but there is merit, and don't beat yourself up. Never to destroy yourself. Like when God talked to Cain, when Cain made his mistakes, what was it? If you read that, you never hear God bring up the situation that Cain. Right. But what did he bring up? Why is your face downcast?
Yeah.
Why is your countenance fallen?
Yeah.
He never brings up the mistake. He brings up Cain's reaction to his mistake. And that's a lesson.
Man, that is a lesson. That is a lesson. Okay, can I change the subject?
Go ahead.
We hear all the time in religious circles, I'm trying to pick, as I do, I'm picking my words wisely. In religious circles, such things like tithes and offerings. We hear tithe and tzedakah, or tithe and charity. Now, my first question is tzedakah a part of tithe, or is tithe and tzedakah two different things?
I'm going to have to say yes and no on that, because I know two sides of the fence. Okay, on this side, I'm going to say something very controversial.
Tithing, meaning non-Jew.
Yes. Tithing is not commanded to humanity outside of Israel. I'm talking about the nation at that point.
Yes.
It's not a commandment. There is no commandment to tithe. 10%. Tithe means 10%.
So
tithing actually, even for the Jew, tithing is for inside the land, and it's only of the products, the produce of the land. Agricultural.
Okay.
When we look at it from the scripture, it's actually a Jew that lives outside the land does not have the commandment to tithe. One, if he's not a farmer, he doesn't tithe.
I remember.
Go ahead.
I remember reading this in an article on Chabad.org, and I also remember seeing a couple of lectures about it. The lectures was toward the Jewish person and discussed the tithe in the land, and outside the land it was not an obligation.
It is not an obligation, nor is it a commandment.
Okay.
Now there are principles that they live by that we can learn from.
Okay, now we're still talking about the Jewish people living by that we can mimic or learn.
Well, not mimic, just learn. Learn from.
Okay.
Now I know that some are going to pull out the passage where Abraham brought a tithe to Melchizedek, which was Shem, the son of Noah. Okay.
Now, can I ask you a question about that? You said brought. Did Abraham go looking for Shem, or did they just cross paths?
I have to go back and look at that, but I think
Okay, that's okay.
I think he went to look for him. I have to look at that whole situation.
Okay.
I believe I remember exactly what it is, but it's been a while since I've read it. But I know that this is going to be brought up. Well, Abraham brought a tithe. And I believe it was due to the war with the kings, the 5 kings, and he brought he brought a tithe of the spoils or something like that. Again, I have to go back and forgive me for not having it in full memory. But there is no commandment to tithe from that situation. We are just hearing what Abraham done.
Correct.
That was Abraham's nature is generosity.
Okay, so he didn't set a precedence.
There is not a commandment there. No, he did that.
Now, did he do it out of compassion?
I believe he did it out of compassion. Plus, it was a thing. It was like a thing. I believe it was more like a Thanksgiving offering toward the righteous king, which is Shem. I'll have to research that story. I know a whole lot to it. That would probably be a good lesson in class for us to go through one night for Wednesday night. I'm starting to get a list of things we need to probably be looking into. But just because Abraham did that does not mean there's a commandment.
Okay.
But not for the non-Jew, because Abraham wasn't a Jew.
So
at that time, he wasn't, he was the father of the Jewish people, but he was still, Mount Sinai hadn't happened.
Okay.
Israel hadn't become the nation.
Right. Okay. I hear these principles coming from the Jewish teaching. Never less than 5%, never more than 20%.
Right. There's some passages that talk about the 20%, and I don't have those in the top of my head right now.
But that's again for Jewish people. For
a Jewish person, when they're out, let's say they're living outside the land of Israel, there is no commandment to tithe. But to help them to help them out, I guess you can say, in teaching them about giving, they use the principle no less than 5, 10, and then there's the 20. And I'd like to say there is a passage that talks about the 20%, and it's not even a commandment to give the 20. It's just if you can.
But never more.
My first rabbi, this is what he done. He lived in Brooklyn, New York. And if you've ever been into a Jewish community, someone's always asking for something. Somebody's getting married. Fathers are needing help to marry their daughters. Someone's in the hospital. There's people who come around and ask for organizations and families. Right. Okay. And my first rabbi, David, he took 10% of his paycheck. They had a place at home that they kept it. He put some of it, he'd divide that 10% up. He kept some of it in a bowl at home. He kept some in his pocket at all times. He never went anywhere without, he had one pocket that was his Tzedakah pocket. He kept money in it all the time, and that was part of his 10%. He could give 10% to charities and stuff like that, but they would take that 10% and they would divide it up and they would give it out. Somebody knock on the door. Hey, Mr. Goldenstein down the road, his daughter's getting married. He needs help. Doesn't have the money to marry off his daughter because Jewish weddings are very expensive. And David would give a couple of dollars. You don't just pour everything you've got out. And when I'd go to the synagogue with him to pray and stuff, people would be walking around, and they had their Tzedakah boxes, like, what you show. And I started learning to keep change in my pocket. And I put a nickel in there or whatever, a little bit. The thing about Tzedakah is not the amount. It's the attitude of the giving.
Right.
Okay. Again, but tithing is given to the Jewish people based on the land. This is another little insight into their arena that David taught me about. He took me to the market one time in New York. There's markets, fruits and vegetables everywhere. It's international city. And you can find produce from Israel in some of these markets, especially in the Jewish quarter. Okay. He picked it up and he flipped it over and he showed me this little sticker that's on it. He says, you see this sticker right here? It says that the farmer that raised this produce took 10% of the produce and paid tithe with it. He says, if you find a piece of vegetables, fruit, it says from Israel on it, and it does not have the sticker, you don't buy it because it was not tithed on.
Well, that is some good information.
But the government actually has a sticker for those who observe this. Of course, not every Jew is like it, but the observant Jews, they're farmers. They pay the tithe from their produce, whether it's, potatoes, bananas, whatever it is. They take the 10%, and they also have the first fruits and all that kind of things that they deal with, but they take the 10% of that, and either they convert it to money and give it to a charity. See, when the temple's in place, this goes to the Levites. This all goes to the Levites and the Cohens.
Now, okay.
So see, we don't have any tie to that. We're not out in the lands. We're not commanded to observe a tithe with God, but we do have the duty of kindness, of tzedakah.
So now we're going in the practical application for the B'nai Noach.
Exactly. Just like Ezekiel 16, with Sodom, the sin of your sister Sodom was they did not strengthen the hand of the needy nor the poor.
Okay.
They say it is a sin when you do not do your duty to strengthen the needy, and the needy may not be poor.
Now, okay, that's what I was going to ask. We have to use we can't use our judgment so much that we don't give. I heard a story one time, and I think it might have been from Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, one of their teachers, the Breslov. Am I pronouncing it right? The Breslov. Okay. And talking about giving to 100 people. If I'm not mistaken, that's where I heard it. Forgive me if I'm wrong. One was actually in need and 99 was not. Should I not give any at all because of the 99, or should I give the 99 and hope that I would get to that one?
Well, it's a biggie.
We don't have to cover
that. Again, that's their issue of tzedakah and giving is different than ours.
Right. Now,
because they actually have some commandments toward the giving that we don't have.
To us,
ours is more obligation and duty, and it's not as commandment for them. There are some commandments.
Now our tzedakah is counted as righteousness, right?
It's actually translated as righteousness.
Okay.
Or righteous, but now
again,
tzedakah is not always just money.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Again, we're discussing money, but it's not always money.
Just, as an example, and I don't mean throw you, every now and then you throw me under the, okay, the.
Oh no. Okay. I'm getting ready.
I love it. Just the other day, you helped out someone with their air conditioning, where another company was going to rip them off, but you found out that a little $20, $25 part was all that it needed. And they went 6 months without it. And they were, was it an elderly couple? And they just didn't have the money. That's tzedakah. You took your resources, which was your knowledge, your skill to fix something. That skill was used as tzedakah.
We had another incident. My brother-in-law and I think this, you can help me clarify what happened here. We found out this lady had been living without water for over a year, an elderly lady. Her husband had passed away. She's a widow. and she had somebody put a new water line in, but something was leaking, and she couldn't get the plumber to come back, put a new water line. It was about 150 feet. And it got worse, worse, worse. So she finally had to have the water cut off, and she lived with no water for about a year. She was hauling water in from the river to flush her toilets and everything. So my sister found out about it, and I called my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, and I said, "Hey, this isn't right." She didn't have the money to have it redone, and she couldn't get nobody to help. So we, on Saturday, early Saturday one morning, we went down with a probe and started trying to find it. We was trying to look for it. And man, we dug everywhere. And that water line was about 4 foot deep. It was deep. And we worked all day long, could not find the leak. We was finally standing out in the front yard. Hadn't rained in about 2 weeks. And we noticed in the middle of the yard, there was these, we call them mud daubers here. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
There was mud daubers where they'd been, and my brother-in-law said, "You know what? We looked everywhere but right there, and I bet that's the sign." So we dug it up. We found it. We repaired it. She had water. She gave us some money. We said, "No, don't give us that money." She gave us some money. So I sat down with my brother-in-law and I said, "Look, if we take this money, I think we're doing an injustice. We said we would fix that for nothing." Now she felt the need to give us something. It wasn't much. It wasn't much. So we sat down, discussed it, and there was another family who they'd been out of work. The guy fell and broke his back, wasn't able to go to work. He worked in construction, didn't have no insurance, didn't have nothing. And so we kindly took that money and bought groceries and took it to him. So that come all the way around. That's how it's supposed to work, right?
Yes. That's taking care of one another, lifting or extending your hand to the needy.
It really changed
strengthening the hand of the needy.
Yeah, it really changed my brother-in-law. It really, I could see. I said, "Okay, you go do it," and I could see his countenance doing it changed him.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just a big.
Tzedakah really in its in very intent meaning, it's translated as charity, and charity is a horrible, so many people that listens to my teachings, I hate English when it comes to comparing with Hebrew.
Yeah.
There is no comparison. None. Zero. Maybe for A and thee, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Charity is like taking something that is yours and you're sacrificing and giving it to someone else.
Right.
And it's your loss.
Yeah.
But you're lost because you're willing to give. It's your loss. But technically, it was never yours.
Right.
So tzedakah, in its base understanding and meaning, is taking that which is God's, the Creator's, and putting it in the right place.
Yeah.
To do the right thing, the right job that needs to be done. Like I said, be money, be talents, be knowledge,
yeah,
skill.
I heard well, first of all, you was talking about charity. I look at charity as a weak translation. There's nothing weak about charity, but it's a weak translation to tzedakah. But I heard a rabbi just this week. I've been kind of going over some teachings of tzedakah, again from Chabad.org and from the Breslov. And when you give something like that and you give it away, it's actually yours forever, because it will merit in the world to come. Am I right? Or is that just for the Jewish version?
There's another. Oh, let me see if I can find this real quick. Where's it where's it at? I just read it just
I'm going to pause till you find
an
it.
hour ago.
Okay, say that one more time because I
don't want to put that. No, I don't want to put that on recording because I don't.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're going to find some information on the statement I just made and present that later. So, okay, Terry, you got something to read us here out of the a book there? Because
this is a book on Musar, or character traits, improving your character traits. And this particular one, there are a bunch of them out there. This particular one, Orcus Zadikim, he has each of the sections listed as like gates, like the gate of haughtiness, the gate of humility, the gate of shame, the gate of arrogance, the gate of love, hatred, mercy. What I'm going to be reading from here, just a small section of, is the gate of generosity. And the author states, he says, generosity is the trait through which a man achieves great heights, or a person of great heights. When one's generosity is expressed properly, and what he means by properly is this. Properly means that the giving is done in the right manner, to the right source at the right time, as opposed to someone who is simply squandering his resources.
that when you first read that to me, that really speaks to me. Again, you have to read. Now, it's not talking about. It's talking about the giver shouldn't squander his resources.
Shouldn't squander his resources.
Okay.
Like spending everything on himself.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with buying stuff because Hashem blesses us. And that's one way he blesses. He blesses us with an income. You know, we bought a house. We're buying things for the house left and right. You know, he gave us this house. I mean, with the way it worked out. And he's been blessing us to be able to furnish it and get some things we've never had before. And what I mean by things we've never had before, I've always wanted a front porch.
Right.
I mean, a good size front porch. Our first house had a little bitty dinky 5x5. No, I've got a front porch. The house was built in 53. It's a 53 bungalow with a front porch. And my dream front porch is like a 1940s Craftsman wraparound front porch. Daddy's talking. But anyhow, I do have a front porch. Hashem has given us a beautiful place here. Yeah, we're next to a busy road, but I have two probably 60-year-old maple trees in my front yard that totally shade everything. We sit outside, and Days of Mayberry comes to my mind. But we've been buying rocking chair. We got 2 rocking chairs and a glider and a little table so we can eat outside there and stuff like that. And so it's not squandering. You know, we're beautifying the blessing that he's given us, and you can do that. So we have to be, you know, we have to look at our situation and what Hashem's given us, whether we're squandering or not. It says here, properly given is done in the right manner, the right source at the right time. One of the ways, you know, we talked about a while ago, we don't have the commandment, the 10% commandment. That is a principle on which to live by, you know, to achieve, to go by, and to have that 10% to give. And maybe don't give that whole 10% to all one charity, but break it up, help people out. Make sure you have some in case a hand is extended to you.
Right.
And if it's not, and don't worry, it's not about the amount. If somebody who needs something, if you give them $5, $5 more than what they had.
Right. And you're talking about a rule of thumb.
A rule of thumb, yes.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that my wife and I, that we really enjoy, that we're empty nesters. We eat out a lot. Especially because our work, nature of our work. I get off at 6 every day. My wife gets off anywhere between 5 and 7. And so the time we get home, time we cook, and it's just, you know, we do, if we cook anything, most time it's on the weekend. And so we'll stop, you know, here and there, or even on the weekend, we'll go, we got like a Mexican restaurant down the road here we love going to. We've got a country restaurant we love going to. When we go out to eat where we have servers, we give into our servers. We don't give the 10%. Sometimes we don't give the 20. Yeah. God, I'm not saying this is boast, but sometimes we'll leave $20, $25 tip.
Right.
Because like my daughter, my wife has been a server. She knows what it's about. My daughter, youngest daughter, still is a server, and especially now with COVID, she does not make the tips that she made. Matter of fact, the place where she worked, because the tips were not going to be there because of the situation, he put them all on a very good hourly scale. It's still, she doesn't make what she made with the tips, but her bills are paid.
Right. Okay.
And so we like to give. That's how we really like to give. You never know when someone who doesn't, have the tables that they used to have, and they're still trying to feed, it could be a single parent, or they've got to pay rent, they got to pay light bills, they got, no telling what's going on, and they're working double and triple shifts just to be able to keep their head above water, because they don't have the tables to wait on like they did have. And so we enjoy, that's one of our favorite things, is to give to our servers. And so that is, the right source at the right time for me.
Right.
For us. And I know, Scotty, you're really good in that area as well. As that's something that we enjoy doing. We do not, we've never regretted. We've had some servers that were horrible, but that didn't change our giving.
Right.
Because you don't know why that person may have been horrible that day.
Exactly.
They could have been just like what happened to me today. I've got a pair of 10, 15-year-old glasses on because I broke my glasses at work today. And now I know I'm going to have to buy some more glasses, and they're not cheap because I've got bifocals, and I got the seamless ones. So it's actually you're buying 2 pairs of glasses when you have this. It could be $300 or $400 to replace those glasses, plus and you run an eye exam because it's time for that.
Yeah.
So you don't know reason why that person may not be in a good mood. So that should not change. Well, I'm not going to give them a tip. They forgot my French fries. So what? Maybe their baby's home and sick, and that's what's on their mind.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So let's know, the right.
Can I give one thing on that, Terry, before you read on? We did Tzedakah the other night for a young lady who had a miscarriage.
Oh man!
And she is still a waitress in one of the restaurants that we frequent during the week. And I remember when she came to me and told me that she was going to have a child, and we were so happy. And about a month went by, and I came in and I said, I'm really looking forward to holding that baby. And she just had a solemn look, didn't say nothing to me. And of course, she waits on us all the time when we go. And she was just struggling. You could see she was really struggling in her mind to keep the order straight. And although we ordered the same thing all the time, we had to ask for our drinks and everything. And the people I was with was very upset about how this waitress was treating them today. So when she came to give us our tickets, I grabbed her by the hand. I said, honey, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. And she said, I lost the baby. And so the lady and the gentleman and his wife I was with realized that they misjudged the situation. And she got up and grabbed her and hugged her and all that. But see, we don't know what they're going through. And that's a classic example right there.
Mm-hmm.
Of
here the other day, there was a situation that you were in, and that paid the woman's light bill. Her lights were about to be turned off.
Yeah.
We just never
know. There was I don't want to turn this into a testimony time, but
but some people need to hear that giving should be a joy. You know, maybe they just need to look at their giving. Maybe they're going out to eat and they're leaving $1.
Right.
And I don't mean to put you down. Maybe that's all you got, and that's fine. That's exactly fine.
Yeah.
But like right now, Hashem, our creator, has blessed my wife and I with a job where we can do these things. We couldn't do them when we were raising kids. We barely had the money to buy potatoes.
I know what that is. Yeah. I tell my kids today, I said, we had cloth diapers. We didn't have, your mama had cloth diapers. But there was an incident that happened about a year ago, an incident that I felt impressed to give our waiter a rather large bill for a tip. And I said, I don't know. I just want to give this to you. He said, well, everything, I'm good. You don't need to give this to me. I said, no, I don't know why. I got to give it to you. So I give it to him. The next time we went in, he said, I know why you had to give it to me. He said, when I left work Saturday night, I went outside and one of the waitresses that work here, a young girl, somebody broke into her car and got the last bit of her rent money that she had. And it was that money. It was the exact amount that I'd give him. And he said, I got something for you. So, I mean, you see, it just works. I mean, it just works. We don't know. So, okay, go ahead, Terry. Will.
Generosity
Whew.
is the trait through which a man achieves great heights. When one's generosity is expressed properly, as we've just been discussing,
yeah,
is extremely praiseworthy and leads to many attainments, both in this world and in the next. As it is written in Proverbs 18, verse 16, a man's giving will broaden the path for him and lead him before the great. For his gifts will endear him to kings and princes of all men. There is nothing in the world that so endears one to others as generosity, in addition to the good reward that he will attain in the world to come. And let's see here. Where was it at? We just also it was just something else. It was just I skipped a page. All right. It says a man's giving will broaden. Going back, there's some little bit of commentary for Proverbs 18, verse 16. It says a man's giving will broaden his path for him. Okay. His reputation will improve as a result of his generosity. From Rashi, one of the great Torah scholars of Israel. And his acts of giving will stand in his defense in the world to come when he is being judged. Your generosity will become a positive witness at your trial before the Creator.
That's great.
Matter of fact, in Israel, in Jewish thought, there is a question. What is the first thing the Creator is going to ask you when you stand before the throne of judgment?
I think I've read this, but
how well did you do business with your fellow man?
Yeah. That's deep. That's deep. So, can I clarify a couple of things?
Just you go right ahead.
We have to use wisdom in our giving. We need to give, but we need to use wisdom in it.
Right.
And in our giving, we don't have to give it all in one spot. We can section it out.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
But we don't need to give to idolatry. We know that. I think the people that's going to
don't support something that supports the violation of God's commandments.
Right. And we need to have compassion, but we need to we need to, how would you clarify this? We need to make sure our compassion doesn't run wild.
Yes, it doesn't. Yeah, we should not emotionally give.
Right. Right. But now we need to,
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't have emotions. Don't get me.
I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah, there's like, I guess let's say like going into the store, impulse buying. We shouldn't impulse give.
Right. Right.
Now, not to say that the creator doesn't give you an impulse to give in a situation.
Right.
See, this is where it takes time to develop
and
your
learn that. Yeah. I've always said, and I just want to throw this last little thing in before we stop. I've always said that you need compassion to give. One of the things that I kind of threw in on the chat today is, which should you do? And I'm going to present this question to you because this is the, which should you do? Give a man a fish right now or teach him how to fish?
You should do both.
And kindly jump into that and explain that why.
Because you need to look at this, you need to know the situation. If the person is hungry for something right now, then you feed him. But again, let's say someone who needs to be strengthened, then you teach them to fish.
You teach them how to fish. Get them out of that situation that they're in. That's got them there.
Yeah, you did like you know, the first level of the greatest level of giving is like a loan or setting someone up to be able to start a business so they can support themselves. That's the same thing. Teaching them the idiom, or however you want to say it, of teaching a man to fish is teaching a person to support himself.
Yes.
Whether it's fishing or teaching a person a trade, taking him under your wing and teaching him how to do carpentry, to do electrical work, to do plumbing, whatever trade it is that creator's gifted you with, and you gift it to someone else. That's teaching a man to fish.
Yeah.
To take care of himself.
Yeah. Okay, Terry, unfortunately, I have run out of time.
Yeah.
So
you're always on the clock, even if the batteries are dead.
I'm always on the clock. Listen, a broken watch tells the correct time twice a day.
Right.
So, all right, I'm going to, whoever watches this video, we hope you got something out of it. And we may do some more videos on Tzedakah in the future, and we'll just kind of combine them together and send them out. You got anything else to say, Terry?
I just hope this helps, and whoever sees this, if you got questions, send them to us.
Send them to us.
If we don't know the answers, we will get it for you.
We'll do it. As
Bye-bye.
Thomas says, later.
Later.